everybody. My name is GB, and I am the founder of Afro with GB, where we run Afro dance fitness classes in Singapore, as well as Afro dance retreats in Kenya, which is where I am currently. And I had recently met Premi, who will introduce herself today, but I just wanted to give a bit of a story of how we met. First thing first, we've actually not met in person. Um, my business coach, Mangala, dear Mangala, had introduced us via Instagram, and she just said, like, you two should meet and you two should talk. And she was right, because the moment we met online, we connected, and we both host retreats, and we just really connected on a deeper level. It's like almost every time I talk to her, I really do feel like I've known her for a very long time. So, and then the idea came about of, hey, we were already talking about about our experiences with retreats, and we thought, like, hey, why don't we just, record the conversations that we actually already have with each other, and bouncing off each other in terms of ideas and experiences. Like, why don't we just take it to YouTube, which is a channel that I've just started recently, where I wanted to talk a bit more about retreat experiences, my, the whole journey as an entrepreneur, and so much more. So yeah, so we decided to take this to YouTube, and we'll be focusing on a few topics like location, why we chose the location that we chose to host retreats, support systems, values, relationship with money. All of these things, all of these topics came about when we were basically just, connecting and talking about our experiences. And we wanted to kind of do this from two perspectives, where it's also an opportunity for potential retreaters to get a glimpse of what really goes on behind the scenes, right? Sometimes retreaters might think that, hey, we're just paying for the cost, right? Like, why are we paying so much? And it's like, no, there's a lot that goes on behind hosting a retreat. So kind of giving a bit of a glimpse into that world, and also to connect with us, right? Because there is a human, there is a soul that goes behind every retreat. And also for other retreat hosts to maybe not feel so alone in their journey, because sometimes it can be a lot. And that's also how Premi and I connected. So yeah, that's basically the intention behind this series of conversations that we're going to have on YouTube, called AWJ Soul Talk with retreat host. And today we're going to talk about location. But before we go into that, let me get Premi to introduce herself. So all to you.
Thanks. Thanks, Juby. And I have to say, actually, before Mangla introduced us, I was kind of like low-key stalking you on
Oh,
LinkedIn. And I remember thinking like, whoa, this girl is so cool. Like she's running her own business. She's doing it both based in Africa and like in Singapore. And your journey was just very inspiring and it resonated with me on so many different levels. So I thought it was very like synchronicity when Mangla kind of like introduced both of us. And it's like, wow, okay, so this is really like the universe speaking to me. And of course, yeah, when we had a chat, it felt like we just knew each other, like you said. So I'm really glad to be doing this with you. And so to everyone, hello, my name is Premi. I am a dentist, a well-being coach, and essentially the founder of Thrively, a space where I help people discover who they want to be, who they can be outside of what they do. So this journey of, I guess, coaching and curating experiences eventually led me to hosting retreats, which is why we're kind of here to as well like share about that because I'm pretty new as a retreat host as well. I hosted my first retreat last year in Sri Lanka. So hopefully like some of my journeys will be helpful to people who are considering retreats or even like you said retreat hosts.
yay. So let's get right into it. I mean, I guess like you said, Sri Lanka, and for me in Kenya. So in with the topic of location, like, what made you choose Sri Lanka? Like, what's the journey that led you there?
So personally, Sri Lanka is in my like ancestry. So I grew up in
Mm.
Malaysia. I'm half Sri Lankan Tamil. So I've been to Sri Lanka a couple of times. And I think the time that I really connected with it is after my grandmother passed away and I wanted to reconnect with her and reconnect with where she came from, which essentially is linked to where I'm from as well. So I went to Sri Lanka, and I guess that experience after she passed away gave me a very different perspective. Like I always felt Sri Lanka was such a beautiful place. There's just something so magical about this island. And after that, when I spent a bit more time there, maybe because it was a phase that I was going through, looking for like what we call
Mm.
soul searching, almost, it
Yeah.
just translated in a very different way. And it's become even more special because I got married in Sri Lanka. I had my wedding
Oh,
there as well. So
nice.
essentially, I feel like this place is very, very tied to like who I am as a person.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I didn't know you got married there. That's so nice. Which
Yeah,
part of Sri
yeah. So,
Lanka? Which part of Sri Lanka were
so
you?
my grandparents are from Jaffna, which is north,
Yeah.
but I got married in the south of Sri Lanka, so this
Okay.
area called Bentota. Mm,
Okay.
yeah,
Nice. So yeah, for me, I think everybody who meets me and knows that I do what I do always ask me like, is there any roots in Africa or in Kenya specifically? And I'm like, no, my heart just kind of, or my soul led me here, and I call
yeah.
Kenya my soul home in a lot of ways. So I guess my journey to this beautiful country started off with, of course, teaching African dance, and then I felt like I needed to at least come to the continent, right? Visit the continent and immerse myself in the culture. And it was not even about like focus. The focus was not about dance. It was really just like let me, taking the energy of the continent. So that led me to like a 55-day trip in Africa. And I started in Southern Africa, and then it led me to East Africa, and ended the whole tour basically ended in Kenya. And I had been following like a few people, organizations from Singapore in Kenya, and I decided to then stay in Kenya for an additional week without the tour. And that's when I got to kind of, see life as like just a normal person living here and visiting the places and people that I had been following on Instagram for a while. So I just remember feeling like, okay, to take myself a bit backwards, like there was a moment on my trip in Africa, and I know it was in East Africa. I just can't remember exactly where, which part of the lake we were in, but I just remember feeling like I think I found my second home. And,
Yeah.
I had always told myself that I would live in another country just for the experience of it at some point in my life. But of course, I never would have thought Africa, right? Like no one would think Africa as a place that they would want to live in. And that's a whole thing in itself. But like, yeah, I was just like, I just remember feeling like, I think I found my second home. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't know how we're going to make this happen. But like, I just remember getting that feeling. And then Kenya just, was so welcoming, and people were so nice, and it just felt easy and almost like it was meant to be that to be here. So again, I didn't really have a plan of organizing retreats or anything like that, but I just knew like
Mm,
I needed to come back to Kenya. And then eventually I made another trip back to kind of take out the tourist lens and just be with the land, right? And try and live a normal life here just for like 3 weeks. And then I was like, yeah, no, I want to be here. Like, I want to see how I can live my life here and explore that as a yeah, just explore that, because I think I would just ask myself, what if I don't want to keep asking myself what if I just took that leap, so then I decided
yeah.
to take that leap. So yeah, and then now it's been like 2 years, and then yeah, that led me to like organizing retreats, and yeah, that brings us to this.
It's very interesting because, it sounds like we both were, our starting point was the fact that our souls kind of led us to this
Mm,
place. And yours was through dance first, and then that curiosity led you to go like, hey, okay, Africa,
yeah,
to find out more. And for me, it's like the to connect more with my roots, and
yeah,
that curiosity led me to go to Sri Lanka and kind of understand. And sometimes there's there's not always words to explain how you feel in a certain place,
Yeah.
but I like how you said, like, yeah, it gives you this sense of home,
Mm.
because to me, home is this place where I feel like connected, I feel safe, you know, yeah, and it sounds like our starting point was where that curiosity is, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, people travel when they choose a place, they might choose it because, oh, that's like the top 10 countries to visit,
Mm.
or maybe they had an interest, they like surfing, so they pick places that are good for surfing. So that's
Yeah.
interesting how people would choose places to visit
Yeah.
in terms as well. Yeah.
And I mean,
So I
I
like how
guess
yours has dance.
has dance, yeah. But I mean, I think that's the
Yeah.
thing also, like when we talk about soul, there's almost no logic to it, right? Because there's
Mm,
just this inner feeling or inner knowing of like, yeah, something feels right here, or there's a connection here that you can't really explain. And yeah, like you said, sometimes people might choose a country based on logic, right? And I think that's my answer
mm,
all the time. Like, I have no logic. There was no logical explanation. I have a good life
yeah.
in Singapore. There was nothing that, I had to like run away from. And, and of
Mm,
course, I acknowledge that that is also a privilege and I can always go back to Singapore at any time. So no one is like asking me or forcing me to be here. I'm choosing to be here, and I'm grateful to be in that space. But yeah, I think we like, sometimes when people talk about soul, it's just like, but what does soul mean? And it's like, how do you
mm,
explain it? Like, I don't know how to explain it. So I think that's also why
yeah.
I felt so connected to you, because I felt like, I didn't have to explain anything to you. You just
Yeah.
got it. So
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
was
There's
nice.
always this connection where someone just kind of gets you, and yeah,
Yeah.
some things words, there's no tangible, because as humans we're always searching for something
Mm,
tangible, right? And if we
yeah.
can't put words to it or we can't see it, it's like, is it really there? But
Real.
I
Yeah.
believe that's there's something like that. It's like magic, or yeah,
Yeah.
synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say, from like a retreat host perspective, like what would you consider to be, like what would you, I don't know whether it's advice or tips, but yeah, what would you say would be like the maybe a few points that you, because we talk about things not being logical, but at the same time, when you're hosting a retreat, some things need to be logical, right? We need to take some things, logistics and everything into consideration. So I guess what would be like your main points when choosing a location?
Um, okay, so I guess Sri Lanka to me connected, and I realized when I was there, there's a sense of peace and like calmness. Just being there helped me feel very grounded. And I've traveled to Sri Lanka even before when there was the war and after, but I've
Mm,
never felt not safe in Sri Lanka, especially as a woman.
yeah.
So I felt, okay, safety is okay. Um, so that was another thing. And even though language was an issue, I was
Mm,
able to connect with people like local partners that I could trust, and they were super helpful as well. So there are ways to work around language. But essentially, for me, when I chose the space for a retreat, to me, it had to kind of connect back with nature, because a lot of, like, for me in coaching, I use wisdom that I have found through nature
mm,
in my coaching practice as well, and a space where people can feel calm. So it's not crazy busy and it's overdeveloped. In the sense where you can connect to simplicity, because I think sometimes we tend to complicate our lives, and living in a city, it can be so hustle bustle, and
yeah.
but actually life is very simple, like basic needs are very simple, and that is enough in itself. So those were the things that I thought about, and why I felt like Sri Lanka was a great retreat place. Maybe essentially also because I felt like every time I go there, I feel like I'm on a retreat where I can
Mm,
just surrender, and I get all this wisdom or ideas that come to me when I'm there. So I'm like, this is great.
yeah.
It's a great place to evoke this sense of feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Mm. I feel like for me, it was I mean, I guess like what you said about how you felt in Sri Lanka, I guess how I felt mattered, but also I knew that it was so foreign, right? Especially to like Asia and to Singapore. So I guess from like a retreat host perspective, if if anybody does choose Africa or a country in Africa to host a retreat, I feel like they really, really need to know their why, right? And I feel for me,
Mm.
I knew that it really was about connecting people to Africa, also because it was such a foreign concept. Like there were so many stereotypes and barriers. Like even from me traveling to Africa, there were so many concerns and like how can you travel alone? You're solo traveling as a female, like, so many
Mm.
questions, so many doubts, so many barriers. And of course, I had those barriers as well, right? So I guess for me, it was okay as a retreat host, making sure that I cover the ground basis of the logistics. I connect with people that who really get what I'm trying to do, and also, who I feel safe with, right? Who are going to help bring this vision to life. So of course, there was a lot of meetings and connections and
Mm.
there's a lot of background work that needed to be done, right? Because I just needed to know that, okay, I can trust you and we have to do this together. Because I think that's the thing. There was no way that I could do this on my own. And I guess that's also
Mm.
why being here on a longer term basis gave me a stronger foundation to build that I can go and check out accommodation on the ground. I can go meet the vendors. I can and of course, the longer that I am here, the more places that I discovered, and the more I'm like, okay, yeah, this can work, this doesn't work. But yeah, I think those things matter, right? If to just know the place on the ground and also then know why you're doing it here specifically and not. Because I think somebody asked me like, would you consider doing a retreat in another country? And I'm just, or another continent, I guess, not country. And
Mm.
I said like, no, I think for me, for now at least it feels right to do it in Africa because of African dance and everything, but also because what the land gives me, right? And gives I know what
Yeah.
I think people need to connect to not how do I say this? Not need to connect to Africa, but need to experience or be exposed to the culture, the people, the language, the food here beyond what Instagram or what the media shows, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that helps you when you're there on the ground. Like, so for me, even though I knew which location in Sri Lanka that I wanted to host my retreat, um, it also helped that when I was there in Sri Lanka, a friend of
Yeah.
mine connected with me to this guy who runs like um, mindful retreats where he helps people who are looking to host retreats, host it. So that was my connection there because
Mm.
yeah, I couldn't go to all the places that I wanted to go to, but I had certain ideas in mind. So he was able to help me to do that on the ground work. So I think there are people, if there are people looking to host retreats, there might be people on the ground that actually
Yeah.
can help with that kind of resource. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's the BTS or the behind the scenes that people don't see, right? Because there's actually
Mm.
so much that goes into who you're connecting, how long do you trust? Yeah, there's just so much to it. And yeah, and I guess for me also, I I would love to do a retreat in other parts of Africa, and I'm really looking to Ghana as well. But there's no I'm going to move to Ghana to do a retreat, right? So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like you, I would probably, and I mean, of course, I want to visit Ghana first before organizing something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's also, I guess that's why soul is so important. I feel because both of us could just really I don't know, not do the groundwork, right? Because
Mm.
it's just easy to be like, okay, I want this done, and then we kind of do it on a surface level thing, but actually really going
Yes.
down, meeting people, connecting, I think that
Yeah.
takes it to another level. Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like for both of us, we don't just want, it's not just taking someone to a location.
Mm,
It's like the deeper level is connecting with the culture, connecting
yeah.
with the space, the land, because
Yeah.
that I believe has a deeper impact than just a location and yeah, just a few days doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that brings us to also from a potential retreater perspective, like I had this question that I had also been asking myself was, is my location a tool or a destination? So what are
Mm,
your thoughts on that?
that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, I feel like it is a little bit of both.
Mm,
Again, because I feel there's a lot you learn about when you travel, right? Essentially, if we just look at traveling,
mm,
there's actually things that you can learn depending on how you travel as well. But for Nourish Retreat in Sri Lanka, yes, destination in a way because people have a very different perspective of Sri Lanka. They don't think it's safe. Like they're curious, but they might not know about it. So that's one. But the location in itself that like the nature and the people and the food and the culture is so rich and
mm,
profound. And it's taught me that, yeah, I don't really need much. There's so many things, there's so simple things, but brings me so much joy and happiness.
yeah.
Um, and that's a tool that helps me. So when I interact with the locals and I see like the work that they're doing to support each other, this whole
Mm,
sense of community, it makes me feel like
yes.
it's bigger and everything is bigger than who I am,
Yeah.
So it's not me, it takes me out and it's like everything else. And then like for me personally, I feel life doesn't feel so heavy and I've learned how to to be so grateful for everything that I have, which is a lot more, than
Yeah.
I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have. So I guess in that way, it's a tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there is definitely an overlap. And I mean, I think for me, it's also a question that someone asked me that I guess it was also like because of messaging, right? Like how we promote the retreat or, the messaging that we put out there. Like, are we focusing on the destination or the tool? And I think when I first started, it was it was simpler than I guess now, because I think now having gone through it a bit more, I then think about it a bit deeper. But I think when I first wanted to do it, it just felt like, oh, I just want people to come to Africa. Like I
Mm,
feel I feel like I have such an amazing experience here that like I just wanted other people to experience it. So yes, of course, I felt the deeper transformation and shifts. Okay, I won't say I do think my first trip was a transformational trip, like a life-changing trip, but I also cannot expect that everybody's going to feel that, right? So I
yeah,
think I like to
yeah,
use the word shifts instead as well. But like I know I experienced that, but I didn't feel ready to put that on other people. So I think for me, when I first started, the focus was just more on the destination and overcoming the barriers and the stereotypes and, just stepping out of the bubble that we live in Singapore sometimes and just be like, yeah, go and see this beautiful place, and hey,
yeah,
I'm here, I can be the bridge. But I think after
yeah,
my first retreat, when I saw the shifts that were happening in other people through dance, through connecting with people um here and also just going through the whole motion of it, right? Because it is 10 days and you're in a way living a completely different life, right? So it's kind of hard to not be a different person out after the
hmm,
retreat, after the 10 days. So I think witnessing that firsthand, then I was just like,
yeah,
oh damn, this retreat is so much more. And of course, like again, like I knew that on an internal basis, but you don't know until you do it that then
yeah,
you're like, shit, like this is actually way more than I thought it could be. And it was the most exhausting thing, but it was the most fulfilling thing because on both ends you see like how my Kenyan friends were connecting with the Singaporeans and the Singaporeans with the Kenyans.
yeah,
And it was just like, there was just this moment during dinner where you just see like when would you just see like a bunch of Kenyans and a bunch of Singaporeans connecting with each other? Like
yeah,
where? Like that's not normal, right? So it was just
yeah,
so beautiful to witness. And I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, the byproduct does seem to be transformation or at least shifts, bigger shifts
yeah,
or small shifts.
yeah.
And it can be a tool and the destination as well. So Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful. So one of the things that I did in my retreat was like walk in a paddy field. So there's this local
Mm.
farmer who's trying to revive organic farming. So he took us to his land and you walk barefoot in his paddy field while he explains about how he's growing rice and everything. And it was interesting because, again, people from Singapore have never walked barefoot in a paddy
Yeah.
field. I have to say, I'm one of them. And
Yeah.
it was such a surreal feeling, you're like squishy and everything. And like, you're like, okay, this is gross, but this actually feels really nice at the same time. So when we came back to Singapore and when we were catching up, when we talked about it, it was almost like you could relive your memory because your body remembers it. And so
Yeah.
that is so powerful because there's no, like, that's the, I feel like the biggest part of transformation or shifts is when your body remembers it. Because a lot of
Mm.
times we might go on vacation, but everything is very
Yeah.
fast. You have a checklist, you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going
This
to
is
do that,
this.
that.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you might not even remember what your vacation was or where did you go or who did you meet. But when you
Mm.
slow down, like what you do in our retreats and you meet people and you have this amazing meal, you go back and one day you're eating and you're like, oh yeah, I sat
Mm.
on this table with people from a completely different background but connected with
Yeah.
them and your body remembers what it feels like. And
Yeah.
that I feel is like a very big and deep shift. Yeah.
Mm. And I guess that ties in very well with intentional, right? Like intentional
Yeah.
travel. Like, what does that mean to
Yeah.
you? Because I feel like the word intentional and, authenticity can be used a lot, but what does it really mean to somebody? So, like, yeah,
So I used to be someone who used to just travel like a checklist. Like I had a whole list of countries and I'm like, yeah, let's
yeah,
go, check, check, check. But
yeah.
I think after COVID, I felt like it it took a lot for me to also travel, but I wanted to slow down. And so for me, it's really like, yeah, there's always going to be places, things to do, places to see, but I really wanted to experience and embrace each moment. So
Yeah.
intentional, I guess, for me is slowing down and connecting, being present is
Mm.
being intentional and yeah, making informed choices,
Yeah.
So if I'm really going to travel to this place, like why? Is it because I'm curious and the activities that I do, like, am I giving back to the community? Am I
Mm.
connecting with the community? Yeah, so things that does this thing really bring me joy? Yeah, so I don't travel to tick off like checklist anymore. I really travel because it's a space for me to explore and connect with myself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you on that. I feel for me, intentional traveling is very much similar to that. I guess when I like every single thing that is on the 10-day retreat, for example, just even hiring a private chef, it's not a private chef for like luxury, right? Like, because people might
Mm,
associate private chef with luxury, and it's like it's not about that. I mean, if you feel like it is, okay, great, but then it's not that was
yeah.
not the intention behind it. It was really like, having someone come in and cook, authentic Swahili food for us and teach us how to cook as well. Like all of that
Mm,
is, and then you get to know the chef as well, right? So I think in the last
mm,
retreat, like all of them really connected with Laura, our chef, and hearing her stories and how she became a chef and what motivates her and everything. Like you don't get that in a restaurant. You don't get that
yeah.
in a buffet spread at a hotel, like, that, oops, this is what happens when you're doing it at a window, but I don't know whether you heard the thing, but
Echo, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, like it was that was intentional. Even, yeah, like I said, not staying at a hotel. I intentionally or purposefully book a 4-bedroom apartment so that we all are living together in a communal space. We eat
Yeah.
together. Um, and also I think the intention behind, like, when again we could just make we could just take whatever people would want to tick a box in and put it in our retreat, right? Like that is would be quite
Yeah.
simple because we're just we're just ticking a box and we think, oh, this is what people might like. But actually,
Yeah.
it's not, sometimes I'm not only thinking about what people might like, I'm also thinking about what they're gonna get out of it, which sometimes when you travel, you don't really think about it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, that's why then bringing like a foundation into the picture and going to the coast and bringing dancers along on that coast and just experiencing dance in various ways. I feel we that people might not do it on their own. So yeah, I guess that would be intentional for me, in terms of like everything is really well thought out, why we are doing everything at this time and this day,
Yeah.
why this day is completely packed and why this day is
At
rest,
this days.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think all of that
Yeah.
is just very well, we have to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like we both have the same idea where it's giving back to the community, and
Yeah.
so when people travel to a country, it's not just, I mean, you could probably go to Kenya and live, like go to a luxury
Yeah.
hotel and have a retreat there, but then you're kind of also missing the point of Kenya, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like the space that we hold, the facilitators that we bring in, the food that we serve. So I do agree, like all of that is like these little intentions. So um, to
Yeah.
for people to experience, even though you don't know what they're going to experience at the end of the day, whether they will like it or
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
I
one
mean,
thing I feel.
I guess that's also why we have retreat calls, like clarity calls and everything. And I guess we will go
Yes,
into that in our next series where we talk about maybe
yeah,
values. But I guess that definitely ties into the intention of it, because we also want people who come through to be intentional, right? So I think that's
yeah.
also a big part of it. So yeah,
I
do you have
yeah.
anything?
So I wonder if like that's, I mean, I don't know if we're actually going to talk about this later, but then that is the intention of how we're trying to attract the people that come to our retreats as well, right? As
Yeah,
retreat hosts, like we talk about target audience, I suppose.
yeah,
Um, but people who are looking for something different,
and
right?
yeah,
Yeah, because there are so many retreats out there. So
mm,
how would a retreat goer choose a retreat? So I guess
yeah,
this is one thing where you know that, when you come to our retreats, that there's intention behind it. There's this
yes,
knowing about culture, and everything is thoughtfully
yeah.
curated, with reasoning. Yeah.
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 And I guess, yeah, that's also one of the questions I'm quite sure you asked as well, right? It's like what has drawn you to the retreat and what is your intention for the retreat? And
Mm,
if it's really just to travel to Kenya, then like
mm,
maybe there are other more appropriate or more fitting or aligned
yes.
tours that you can do, or yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that's why that matters to me a lot also, like who comes in. And I guess it's also like
Yeah.
the more specific you are, more intentional you are, that's when you attract the right people, right? Because like you said, there are so many things out there. So
Yeah. So I think I've said no to like some people who really want to, like, oh, they just want, all they want to do is just like rest and relax is part of it.
mm,
But if you're not curious to, if personal growth isn't part of that, then
mm,
my retreat isn't
yeah,
ideal for them. Or
yeah.
some people who just want to do yoga, or they're like, oh, do you do like infrared therapy or something like that? And I know that
That's
that's
not
not
it.
here.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a filter as well. But yeah, I guess to the people who are trying to choose a retreat, I guess coming back to like location, like I guess it's not just about thinking, oh, I just want to go to Africa or I just want to go to Kenya or Sri Lanka, but like really what is really drawing you there? And I guess that's a good question that people need to ask themselves as well before they choose a retreat or a location that they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes maybe you don't have to have such a deep answer.
Mm-mm-mm.
Um, but like even just sitting and like figuring out, because sometimes I feel people that I've spoken to, they're like, oh, I don't know why, but I just feel drawn to
Mm, yeah.
coming. And then you're like, okay, let's
Yes,
explore
we can
this. So
talk
that's when
about
you have
it.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it on the call, right? And
Yeah.
which is why, like, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, our retreats are not, because you have retreats where you can just immediately book
Book.
a space.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So, but where we do our calls, where we know each participant that's coming to the retreat as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So you don't have like, in essence, you know the energy of the group, and that's
Yeah.
intentionality of the
Yeah.
people you're allowing to come into your space as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I look at things that I want to book or I want to attend, I like to have the one-to-one calls as well. Like I kind of
Mm,
when I see it on someone's website that you can just book, there's no opportunity to have a call. I'm like, nah, I don't think I
mm.
want this. I mean, it's kind of like it feels counterintuitive for me, right? Because if I'm having all this intention in curating a retreat, I kind of want that for myself when I attend a retreat, right? So I think
Yeah,
that's also
yeah,
one of my markers of, or like maybe filters of like, I don't even know who's going to be picking me up, or who am I actually going to be
yeah.
spending the next 10 days of my life with? Like I want to know that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
that's
especially
important.
nowadays in social media when like everything is just there. You don't know what is real, right?
Yes.
And for me,
Yeah.
like human experience is super real. So I would love to like talk to the host and understand, like get an idea of what goes on, what the vibe is. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we can wrap up location. Like, what would be your final thoughts about location as a retreat host and to someone who is potentially looking to do a retreat?
Oh, so I would probably say that pick a place that sparks your curiosity. And if you think of it and you have a little nudge in your
Mm,
tummy, that is a good place to start. Uh, but also, I guess, intention and being curious and open to new experiences, I think is always what I say to people.
mm. Okay, you covered it for me. No, I think like because you like every word that you said is like nudge, and when you feel it, like that's also what I would say, and I feel that is important for retreaters and retreat hosts. But I guess just to add to that, I think my final thought would be don't ignore it. I feel a lot of times there is this inner knowing or inner nudge, and a lot of times we ignore it. So I think my only
Mm.
thing I would say for both retreat hosts and for retreat goers, don't ignore that nudge. Because I think as a retreat host, it's a lot of work and we know that, right? And sometimes, honestly, sometimes just go into it with a delulu mind because ignorance can
Yeah.
be bliss. Because I think if I thought about every single thing that I needed to do for a retreat, I may have psyched myself out. Um,
Yeah.
but I also know that there was this inner nudge where I was like, no, I'm going to do this, even if it's takes a bit longer, even if it's a lot of work, like I knew I wanted to do it. And so I guess, yeah, for a retreat host, don't ignore that nudge. And for a potential retreat goer, I feel like, yeah, if there's a retreat that's calling for you, don't ignore that either. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Premi. And
This was really great.
this was really nice. And I
I'm
think
looking forward to our next series.
it's next series. Okay. And yeah, I don't know what we shall talk about. What shall we talk about? Shall we talk about values?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Value is a
So
big one.
it's a big one. So for those of you who are listening, I hope you catch us on the next one. We're going to be diving deeper into values on this AWJ Soul Talk with Retreat Hosts series. Thank you, Premi, and see you in the next one. Bye.